Live from the mothership, Las Vegas. Today, I'm doing a video tutorial about a couple of people have been asking me about how do I what type of vocal chain do I have? What do I use? What type of effects do I use? Or how do I process my vocals to get them sounding the way that they do individually, or when I group them? So I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. First off, the first thing that I do, we're gonna get right into it. I don't got that much time. We're gonna get right into it. The first thing I do is use a trim plug-in, and that's this little bitty small plug-in right here. You can find that in any DAW, whatever type of DAW that you use. I use Pro Tools, so it comes with Pro Tools, and it's basically you want to give yourself headroom. I think I'm getting about maybe negative 18 dB. Sometime I do on the average is negative 10 dB of headroom, because once again we're recording into DAWs that have 24-bit processing. You know what I'm saying? 24-bit, 32-bit processing. So it's 6 bits to every decibel. So we have plenty of we got plenty of headroom. We don't really have to hit it hard like how we would do if we was going through this analog gear. Which is what I use too in my vocal chain. A lot of people, they all digital now. You know what I'm saying? So they had the controller surfaces and stuff, and I even had a couple of them myself. But I figured, like, why pay 10 grand or 8 grand for something that's going to eventually go out, and they're going to stop producing the drivers for it. And basically, it doesn't have any type of summing in it, like a real analog console like this is. It wouldn't have any type of circuitry to really enhance your sound, which basically the whole thing is the mixing console is what enhances your sound. Analog mixing consoles do. The digital ones, they just basically big ass, excuse my language, but they're basically remote controls or mouses. Just mouses on steroids. That's it. They come with, whatever type of DAW that you have the drivers for it to work with, that it supports. But, and they look pretty because the faders jump up and down. But in my case, the most important thing here is sound quality. So this is a very big piece of why my music and my vocals come out the way that they do. On top of the Evelyn, when I'm processing them, actually tracking through it, or if I'm just something previous recording running through the line in on it. So everybody know that's a legend, and it's not going to lose too many preamp battles, if any, outside of the Neve's 1073. I love that, but the Evelyn, it's two different styles. The Evelyn and the Neve is two different styles, whatever you're looking for, but that gives it warmth. So I like to use that. And if you adjust the compressor correctly, you can actually make your vocals stand out in front, and they'll sound very good depending on what you're trying to do. Sometimes I use the EQ, other times I don't. I'll use the EQs on the board. They just sound good, and I like running through the analog circuitry. It's just something about running through something real. The plugins is just basically numbers. I mean, they got some that really sound well, like the UAD. This here one that I'm using, and actually a couple of the different plugins that I use is just cheap ones. Like this one right here is about a $20 plugin, but it works just as good as any other $300, $200, $400, $500 plugin. So that's my vocal chain as far as the real ingredients. The Evelyn basically in this board that has analog circuitry in it, EQs, mic pre's. I like to use the mic pre's for the saturation, and I use it, like I say, in series with the actual digital processing. This is something here that I'm working on.
I can't help myself, no. I can't help myself. 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 Couldn't help it. I was tired. I had to move.
Okay, I'm getting about. This is my chain that I'm using for this one. It's varied to change depending on the artist and what type of vocals that you used to or you working with. So it's varied to change, subjects to change depending upon artists. Okay, but to begin, I have a trim to give myself headroom. Then I actually use this plug in here, this compressor, because it has a good saturating type of a sound. Vintage sound going through it, and that's just basically to get my peaks, maybe like 1 or 2 dB gain reduction. I'm using a fast attack 4-to-1 ratio and a fast release. That's just to tame those transients coming through, and like I say, I'm only getting maybe 1 or 2 dB of gain reduction. From out of there, after I'm fixing it with the and getting the levels right from peaking, I go through my mixing console, go through a channel strip over here. I hit me some mic preamp over here, just enough, and then I use my EQ. I run it into back into Pro Tools. Okay, from Pro Tools, I got another console. Another return and send and return set up to go out to the Everline. Okay, from the Everline, where I'm getting basically line in. I'm not getting any mic preamp over here. I'm getting the preamps from the board, just using the line in to go to the compressor, getting 3 dB of gain reduction. No EQ over here, 7-to-1 ratio, -10 on the threshold, medium attack, fast release. I'm already filtering over here as far as low filtering with the for the vocals. I rolled off 100 hertz at the bottom. Coming back into the board from the Everline through a channel strip just for summing. I just want the analog summing going through it back into my actual DAW system here to a de-esser. Some people will be like, why are you using a de-esser? I'm using a de-esser because I brought it up with the EQ, and the EQ sounds good going into de-esser when you make it crispy. Out into the LA2A, where I'm basically gluing everything together after I grouped them to a bus. So all of the vocals is processed, each individual track is processed through the board, coming and getting grouped together to where I'm getting 1 dB of gain reduction from the LA2A, which sounds very good.
I can't help myself, no. I can't help myself. 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 Couldn't help it. I was tired.
So that's my vocal chain. And like I say, sometimes it's subject to change depending on the artist and who I'm working with, but more than likely I'm gonna take the same steps. I like to clean my sound up first. I like to first off give myself headroom with a trim plug in, that's what you see, and then I like to tame the peaks and control it with a compressor. If I don't do manual automation myself, or ride a fader, send it out to a track and ride a fader live, automate it that way. I like to clean it first before going to the compressor to get leveled and stuff like that. So whatever you feed in your compressor, at the end of the chain, you want to make sure that it's a clean signal. So I de-ess perfectly if it needs it. If it need de-esser, then I'll put a de-esser on it. If it don't, and I can just roll off the top with an EQ as far as a low passive or high passive filter, then I would do so. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I can make cuts with my EQ on the board, or vice versa. Boost. Sometimes you can boost instead of making cuts, depending on how you use your cues. You know what I'm saying, your sweep knobs. And that's basically sweeping through the frequency to see what sounds nice and what does not. Okay. This